It's Wednesday. We are live. We are just going to wait for people to join us today. We have lots of fun things happening today. We have Mary joining us. She's married, life and family counseling. She's joining us. And we have Joel Aviola from Chateau Le Parc. And we have a giveaway. So we're going to start right up. And I'm going to invite Mary on. Let's go. Mary, are you there? She's coming on.
Hi there. How are you?
Sorry, I had some technical difficulties there. You know, we share tripods at my house, so when someone messes up the tripod, how are you?
I gotcha. I'm well,
Okay,
thank
good.
you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. There's so much we can talk about. First of all, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Mary Morano, and I'm the owner of Life and Family Counseling in Vaughan, and I'm a relationship expert and psychotherapist. And I would like to encourage, no, don't be scared. I'm not analyzing you. So
I'm kidding.
We'll save that for later.
I'll have my own private session one day.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
Well, 15 years, I'm still here, so I must be doing something, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, then you have some great advice for people, I'm sure.
Oh, yours is probably more professional than mine.
That's okay. You'd be surprised. Some of it's just some common sense stuff that people need to know, and sometimes it comes from real experience. I've been married for over 25 years, and we have a lot of growing and a lot of divorce court fights that we've had over the years. Not everybody's married to a relationship expert or a psychotherapist. So
that must be hard.
But seriously, it comes from experience. And, so there's a lot of people who have really great suggestions for others. One thing I would encourage is anybody who is getting married. I know we do marriage classes. But it's different when you actually go to some premarital counseling. And I've seen people throughout their dating life and who are, on their way to getting married. And it's one of the most phenomenal things you can do, because you get an opportunity to check in to see, do we share the same values? What's our belief system? And you'd be surprised how many couples come in after their weddings and they're having trouble because they didn't actually discuss those things before they got married.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
Then they start to run into trouble.
Yeah, I find, I have a lot of discussions with brides, beforehand. We joke around, people, and I seriously say to them, yes, I took the marriage course, I did the whole religious thing, and they tell you family planning the way they want, and, but do people actually sit down and say to each other, what is your definition of a husband? And what is your definition of a husband? Because it's not going to be the same in my eyes. Correct me if I'm wrong. And what is your definition of a wife? And what is your definition of what are the expectations? Because in my mind, a husband is whatever my dad did half the time, right? Or he didn't do, or whatever I expected him to do. And in your mind, you're coming, and people forget that they're coming from two different families. It's nothing's their fault, really. They're just, I fold the socks this way, his mother folds the socks that way, and that's an argument. And you think, oh my God,
could be a big fight.
Yes, don't think it hasn't been.
Problem for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's great.
Sorry,
they should do
up a little bit.
Yeah, you're freezing for me too, but I can hear you.
You can?
Okay, there you are. You okay? Oh no, don't freeze. Okay, I'm gonna keep talking when she comes back in. I don't know if she can hear me. So yeah, we are going to talk about what it's like to be. There you are. Sorry.
You keep freezing up on me.
Yeah, you were freezing. Okay, we're good now. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about marriage. That's we could do a whole other show on marriage, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
But for now, I also want to talk about planning, because people are always quick to ask me all the time, oh, what's it like to deal with those bridezillas? And I'm just like, guys, they're just humans who've never been married before. Someone needs to remind them. Well, most of the time they haven't been married before. Someone needs to remind them, bring them back to earth, remind them why they got into this thing, ask them if they actually want it. You know how many times I've been there, some girl is I can just see in her face. And we're talking about invitations. Nothing sentimental, really. And she's just looking at me. And I'm like, okay. And it's not just that. I don't know if you find this, but like they just can't make decisions. It's always a change, a change, a change, a change when I'm planning or doing something. And I've had to stop them and say, what's going on? What's really going on?
Yeah.
And the tears just come. My mother this, my husband this, my fiance this. And I'm just like, okay, good, let it out. So I
Yeah.
become, I should get you to train me. I don't want to be saying the wrong things, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure, have you had, you said you've counseled people before they get engaged or after they get, I mean, I guess all kinds, right? What is your
Yeah,
take
I
on being a
do.
bride?
So, yeah, it does it all kinds. Actually, today I was just talking to a fellow who just got engaged over the long weekend. And him and I have been doing some, talking about the differences and obviously both of their families. He was nervous about sort of what it would be like, and what we've been encouraging is for them to have these conversations about planning. And I think wedding planning is the ultimate relationship work for couples. It gets them to talk about
Yeah.
their budgets, their level of influence with each other. How much does each person's opinion matter during this time? How involved are, the other partner in the relationship, depending on who has more of a say or who might have more control over things. Have those conversations with your parents. I know a lot of times parents are financially involved in the wedding, and brides and grooms and partners have to remember that yes, it's your wedding, but it's also a family occasion. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody's going to have an opinion. Everybody wants to have a say. And one of the things that was really neat when I got married, my father-in-law said, we're going to give you a gift, but you guys are going to pay for your own wedding.
That's
So
what
that
that's what we
required,
did too.
yeah, and that required Jim and I to actually sit down and plan for some of the things that we were going to do. And what happens is when you do that, now you get to sort of, figure out how you're going to problem solve, how you're going to have boundaries around things. You're going to make some decisions that maybe some people may not like. But I think it's important to have those conversations with both sides of the family to say, this is sort of what we're looking at. This is how we'd like to plan for things. We definitely want your input, but kind of, making sure that you and your partner are having that dialogue with one another so you don't run into those big snags or family blowouts, as you're trying to plan a celebration.
And you know what I find, like you're saying, I've learned, like, and I'm turning 40 this weekend actually, and I've been
Yay,
married
I
for so
heard.
I've been married for so long, and I still, like, maybe I'm letting my secrets out, but I still, like, communication is so important. And I still find it hard to, like, bring up things sometimes to my husband, like, should I say that? Shouldn't I say that? Am I gonna upset him?
Mhm.
How do I say that? Like, it's a constant, it's always work, right? And people are changing. When you and I've had this conversation with many people. Okay, people say, oh, people don't change, but you were somebody before you when you dated. Yes.
Yes.
And they get married and some people divorce and they're like, didn't you know that's how the person was? And my opinion on that is yes, I knew how they were, but I didn't know how they were as a husband, and neither did they. And they didn't know how I was going to be as a wife. You can say as much as you want to say, oh, when I get married, I'm going to be like that. But they've never had these responsibilities, exactly like you said. So that's why planning really helps. But they've never had a house to pay for together. Then when you have children, they've never been a father before. You've never been a mother before. So
Yes.
we come into these relationships with expectation, right? And already
Of
you're like
course.
you're setting people up for failure when you do stuff like that. But you don't realize, that you're doing that. You just think everybody has the same belief of how a father should be. So
Well,
I
what I say,
it's great.
sorry, what I say to couples is, love only takes you so far, and then the
Mhm.
rest is work. And we might find that, yes, we get along and we have lots of fun together, but when we start to actually go through those transitions, it does take some work. And we love each other, we know that, but if we don't share the same values and we're not compatible, you're going to have a lot of conflict. right? Because if you don't have that like-minded, or you're not, in that with the shared goals, then what's going to happen as you try to go through those milestones in relationships, you're going to run into some problems because now, are we going to parent the same way? What's your idea about parenting? How will we discipline our children? What about money and finances? Nobody wants to talk about money
I
and
know, and it's so,
finances.
you think it's so simple. Like, we should talk about this before. You mean you didn't talk about how many kids you wanted? Like, but
Or
that's an
how much
issue,
debt you
right?
or how much debt you had before you got married. Do you have
True.
debt?
Well,
What am I
yeah,
getting into? What am I assuming?
yeah,
And those are really important conversations so you can go in informed, because then what happens if you don't kind of tell the whole truth, it feels like a betrayal, right?
yeah.
It feels like we've
Well,
kept these
yeah,
secrets, and
totally.
now we're sort of starting off this new relationship or this marriage with some of those resentments, and that's not the way that you want to start out.
And it's always gonna be there. Like, if it's not talked about and resolved, and you, as
Yeah.
much as you tell yourself, oh, I could get over that, we could get over it together, if you're not actually having that conversation and then reminding yourself about the conversation, because you can have conversations and then the next day you're the same person again. That sucks. You know what happened. Like, remember
Absolutely.
that conversation? Like, otherwise it's
Yeah.
just gonna keep eating you all the time. And
Well,
I
and
just
it
want to,
takes a lot of work to recover from
yeah,
those betrayals, for sure.
yeah, yeah. I know you don't really think about, people don't think about that as a betrayal. They think about, that's my stuff. That's my stuff before you came in, but they don't realize it's going to affect, they
Well,
become like
it
student
could
debt.
affect how you buy a house, right?
Yeah.
It could affect, a lot of things when you're planning your wedding, right? Your
Mhm.
credit score. So those are all things that are really important. And, and how do we make those decisions together? And if it feels like there's, secret energy there, what else are you holding back from the other
True,
person?
right?
So it makes you start to question, do I know this person and how well do I know them? And that's why I say love takes us so far. And then it requires us to do some work. And even after we get married, things just don't organically happen. We just don't organically, make up rules. We have to talk about those things. What are fair rules for engagement, for fighting fair? What are do we name call each other? Do we swear at each other? Like, what are some of those things that we want to be mindful and considerate of the other person? Because if you've got these bad habits, just because you get married to somebody, people think, oh, now we're going to be married and that's going to look different. It doesn't look different. Right? And if you're with somebody, will you grow and change together? How do you negotiate things in that relationship? When you said sometimes even still 15 years later, I'm like, oh, should I say that? And again, how you say it is important. What's
Yeah.
your approach? What's your intention for saying that thing? If it's just to be mean and hurtful, then you might want to keep that to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because then
Breathe
there's
a
a
little bit
different
first.
intention. Yeah,
Well,
go take a minute.
I say all the time, like, personally, I don't believe that. If I find, if a couple doesn't argue, I'm like, something's wrong there. Like, someone's not in the relationship, something's going on. I find it very healthy to argue because you're different people, but exactly what you said, it's how you argue. It's
Yeah, and you
we've
can't
never
escape
name called
conflict.
we've never name called each other. I mean, I know people that like throw things at each other. How do you even listen at that point? You're not listening. No
Well,
one's
you
listening.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're yelling and screaming, you're not listening. When you interrupt the other person, you're not listening. And this
Mhm.
is why doing some of that work beforehand gives you sets of skills that you won't get when you're doing a traditional marriage class or you're doing something for, religious purposes. I mean, they're still really great. We took those classes as well. But you actually don't get into some of the nitty gritty. What
Mhm.
is the family history? What are some of those? How were you raised? How was the other person raised? Because what happens is your stuff and their stuff come together,
Yeah.
and when that little knapsack opens and both your stuff comes out, because really what the other person is just a mirror for things that you're going to have to work out anyways in your own
Yourself. Yeah.
marriage, right?
Yeah.
It's going to come to the surface, and it's nice
Yeah.
to know about those things.
It's funny, again, I'm gonna admit it. I'm almost 40, and I'm realizing this past year. Actually, I don't know if you know about Landmark, but I've taken a few Landmark courses last year,
Mm-hmm.
and like we don't listen, like you were saying, we don't listen to people.
Yeah.
I'm a big like I'm always thinking about what I have to say next. Like, okay, I already know what you're gonna say. Like I have
There
to
you
train
yeah.
myself, and I'm like 40. God, like how do you train somebody that's been alive so long, right? But we don't
Yeah.
seriously listen. Like I always said to people, like the reason why I respond is because I feel rude if you're talking, 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 and I don't say anything, because then I feel like you think I'm not listening because I'm not replying. But then some
No.
people might take it as like you're not listening to me. But yes, you think you're listening, but you're not.
Well, and that's a great point when, you know, you have conflict in your relationship, because if you're thinking the next thing to say, you're not actively listening to the other person, and you're going to miss key points that could actually minimize conflict altogether. We're going to have conflict. We can't escape it because that's just part of being, you know, a human being. But there's a
Yeah.
way to have conflict. We can
Mhm.
have healthy conflict where
Yeah.
it's a win-win for both people. There's a great author and therapist. His name is Terrence Real, and he says, "Do you want to be, or no, do you want to win, or do you want to be right, or do you want to be married?"
Yeah.
Right. And it's so true. Like, you know, it has to be a win for both people, right? And if you want to be right, you're going to be unhappy. And because again, to be right, to hurt somebody else's feelings, or to have, you know, an all-out war with each other over what dishes in the sink, about what your mother said, or what, you know,
Wow,
their
we're
mother
still having
said.
we're
Yeah.
still having those arguments. And you know what? It's funny because my husband will be like, I don't like dishes in the sink. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't like dishes left on the counter getting hard. So who's winning here? Because I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, nobody's marriage is going to be perfect. You're always going to
No.
have something. And the whole point is try to listen and try to put yourself in the other person's shoes as well, as much as you have in the back of the mind, oh, they did this to me yesterday. Try to see where they're
Yeah.
coming from. But also, I'd like to touch a bit upon, what we're going through right now before
Sure.
um, before we have to go. So a lot of brides now, just being a bride is stressful. Never mind the marriage part, we know that. Um, so regularly, just being a bride without this COVID is stressful. Do you
Hmm.
have any pointers on how to not be stressed out during planning a wedding?
Well, I think that, you know, it's really sad because I mean, you know better than I do, you know, how long it takes to plan a wedding, right? And so when someone's spending a year, year and a half, and then someone says, oh, by the way, we have to postpone, I mean, a lot of brides are going to feel grief and they're going to feel sadness. You
Mhm.
know, and I want people, it's something that we call radical acceptance, when we actually validate, I'm feeling sad, or that sucks and that's really crummy and I'm angry about that, is actually validating those feelings, because those are, it's important, right? It
Yeah.
does not, it doesn't feel good and people are sad. But what I do say is, you know, feel that, don't dwell in it. And then what? Now
Mhm.
let's do something about it. So that might be, you know, if you had to postpone and you have to start replanning, the positive part is you have another year to save some money for some of the things that you may want to do. But have a plan. Go to your vendors, talk to them. I mean, everybody is really in the same boat when it comes to some of the um, things, or like business problems that they're having. Like, there's, everybody's got to
Mhm.
postpone, or, you know, those kinds of things. Just be proactive in getting involved with the people that you've booked your services with. And if you do have a wedding planner, I think that's really helpful, because then, you know, you can actually guide people along the way. Maybe there's some things that you take on for some of your couples during that
Mhm.
planning.
Yeah.
But I think once you have a plan, and once you're informed, and once you're organized, it lowers that stress and anxiety, you know. And if you have to get married right away because that's what you're choosing to do, then you also have to be, you know, accepting that you're going to have a smaller venue, you're going to have a smaller wedding, you're going to have less people there, you know, and then you can wait. I mean, it's a global pandemic. So unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do about that part, but there's definitely some things we can do to lower the stress. And I think having a plan in place is really important. And then again, that communication with your partner, you know,
Yeah.
so important to talk to each other and make some of those decisions. And that's why I say wedding planning is the ultimate couple work.
Yeah, I've found, like, you know, not to say you need to have a wedding planner, but I've found what's helped a lot with me having my clients. You know, I am able to educate them. You know, in the
Yeah.
beginning, okay, I've never been through this, so to educate them on COVID, I can't. But, you know, I'm able to educate them on, listen, I know you're trying to get a hold of your vendor, but this is what's going on. So just have some patience. And then, you know, at least they're talking to somebody as opposed to calling these vendors that are not answering the phone and they're not answering the phone because they don't want to talk to you. They just have, which is what we're going to talk about next if you want to stay on watch. But the other thing I say is that everybody's human and going through this. Understand
Yeah.
that now we're home. We have to take care of our children. We can't answer the phone as much. We don't have the staff as much. And I'm educating on them on, like, you know, why there's a deposit and they can't get the deposit back right now, and why, you know, and they're understanding. I'm finding it's calming them down because someone is talking to them, and
Well,
someone of
think
them
of what
is showing them
happens.
another point, right, of view.
Yeah, when your anxiety is high, right, then you know it actually does something physiological in your brain. It feels like, oh my God, there's a threat. So it's hard to make decisions when your emotions are really intense, right? And so when you have somebody explaining it to you and calming it down, then absolutely, you know, you're going to feel it just, you know, sort of dissipate, and there's going to be some ease there, right? And when that's the best medicine, is being able to talk about it. You know, when you're planned and organized, then you can actually start to put some things in place. And it feels a whole lot better. It doesn't take away that it's crummy, and
Yeah.
then you have to plan again, but it definitely helps when you have that support.
Yeah, you know, and exactly, and it's even like a lot of them in the beginning were like, "What do I do? I don't know where to start. Should I move my date? Should I not move my date? Who do I call first?" You know, and that's why I started doing the show again, because I had taken a break, and I'm like, you know what? People just need someone, even if I'm not their planner, to come on and feel for them and tell them what's new in the news and tell them what we're
Hmm.
doing on our end, and it just and to remind them, like, you can still keep going forward. And that was the whole thing that we were trying to say. You don't need to cancel. It's not that crazy of a thing happening. Like, yes, you have to move, but it could be worse. And don't
Yeah.
cancel. We all want you to celebrate. We all want to be a part of it. It'll just happen later. So, like you said, you can get married now if you have to for certain reasons, but we can always celebrate. And we've been trying to tell them, you know, don't freak out. You can postpone it. There's ways. And also, it's funny how, like, a lot of brides are, I want to get married in the summer. I booked my wedding in the summer. I have to get married in the summer. Okay, and then so they're moving it, and we're telling them, well, you have to go to March because this is available and that's not available. And they're freaking out, like, I can't get married in the winter. And I'm like, why not? I got married in the winter. I'm still
Yeah.
married. Yeah, but our dresses are pink. What are we gonna do? And I'm like, just put a fur on your dress. They're like, oh yeah, never thought of that.
Yeah.
So, like, to have someone that's not really as emotionally involved as you are, like, I'm emotionally involved, but not as much as you, to
Of
think outside the box
course.
for you is like, oh, phew. I mean, there is a way. I just need someone to tell me.
Yes.
So, you
Well,
know,
that's right. You become the outside brain
yeah,
for that person. And it's much like what I do in my work, right? Is because I can see, you know, what they can't, because they're emotionally invested, right?
right,
And so
right.
it's nice to have somebody that, you know, it's such a simple fix, and it doesn't, and who cares that your dresses are pink in the winter? Everybody knows we've had
Nobody
to
cares.
postpone. So nobody cares. They just want to be together and they want to celebrate with you,
Yeah,
you know, and it's going to be fun and everybody's going to look beautiful. And that's
yeah.
really what the essence of, you know, getting married is about.
It's really hard to, like, the thing that I've tried to even remind myself though is, you know, I do whatever 20 something weddings, whatever it is a year. And for me, every wedding is special, but I can say things like, nobody cares about the color of your dress, but I can't say those things because this is their
Right, of
one and
course.
only time that they're going to get married. So they're like, I care. And so, you know, that's when I have to
Yes.
step back and go, you know, I've had to tell other people in the industry too, like, guys, you can't really talk like that. They've never gone through this before. This is special to them. We know that nobody's really paying attention to how big your centerpieces is, but like they,
Yeah.
unless you really sit down and have a conversation with them, it's hard to, like, explain it to them.
Yeah.
Because I've had my day. They can say you had the day you wanted, but I could turn around and say, you know how
Yes.
many things went wrong on my wedding? I'm
Yeah.
alive, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and
you
it's
know,
not that, nobody cares about the color of
yeah,
their dresses, right?
yeah,
But in the big picture of things, and I mean, as a wedding planner, you're not going to say that to your brides because they're obviously going to feel that, intensely. But
yeah,
really, your family and friends, they've already been part of your planning, and they know. So they're not going to question why you're having pink dresses in the winter, right? They want to be there for you and support you, and they're going to be happy just to be there. So yes, your dresses are important, but I mean, the relevance of the time of year isn't like a huge deal in all of that planning. And I think that once somebody sort of talks them off the ledge, then it's
yeah,
like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Right.
yeah,
And they need that, especially when, they're super emotional, like their year and a half planning has like,
yeah,
oh, now I got to do something else. Right. And
yeah.
anytime there's a change or a transition, people have a hard time with that, right? And they have
Yeah.
to adjust.
And about the whole pink thing, I also remind people all the time, whether COVID's happening or not, the things that they want and things that they're like, oh, I don't know if people are going to like that. And then, well, you know what I say to them? If you have 500 people at your wedding, do you think that you're going to make 500 people happy?
Yeah.
Someone's not going to like your dress. Someone's not going to like the cake. Someone's not going to like everybody has different opinions. So in the end, do what makes you happy, do what makes you safe, do what makes your marriage work.
You
The
got
only
it.
thing, the only time I kind of say pick and choose your battles, and like, going back to what we were saying before for a second, when parents get involved, sometimes I have to say to the parents, chill a bit. But many times people are surprised that I'll go to the bride and groom and I'll say, exactly what you said. This is not just they don't want to hear this is not just your wedding, but it's your wedding. But your parents have thought about this since the day you were born as well. So if
Hmm.
it's gonna kill you to wear a blue pendant that your mom wore and it's hidden in your dress, like that's not gonna kill you. Why do you have to hurt your mother's feelings for something? Like sometimes they just pick and choose, like my mother wants this, my mother wants that. I'm like, guys, give your mother
Yeah.
something. Don't give her
Yeah.
everything, I understand, but give them something. So,
Well, and this is why relationship work is really important, and those connections we have and how we establish those relationships throughout our life, right? And so that's the hope when, our adult children, are getting married and they're, venturing off into these things. We want to be able to have those connections. So you'll wear the blue pendant and it's not a big deal. And we can have those conversations in healthy and safe ways. And that's why that communication with you and your partner is really important, where you both can have those conversations with your parents,
yeah.
because really it's a family celebration. One thing I will say, as we're planning weddings, to all those people that you may not please at the weddings, just be quiet, right? It's not your day.
Yeah, good. No, they
And
know.
and don't
Yeah,
judge, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
if that person thinks that's beautiful, just say, yes, that's beautiful. It
Yeah,
doesn't
my
matter what
mother
you think.
always said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I'm
Perfect.
going to leave it there.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for joining
No
us. I would
problem.
love
Thank
to
you.
have you on again, and we could talk about
Absolutely.
marriage
Anytime.
and the after of weddings. I would love to talk about
Absolutely.
that. But right now, I'm going to bring on Joe from Chateau Le Parc because he has some updates on COVID and wedding and
Fantastic.
scheduling for us.
Okay.
So I thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much.
you.
Once again, it's at Mary Life and Family Counseling, correct? That's your
Yes,
Instagram. Go
absolutely.
give her
Yep.
a follow, and you do a live every what? Monday,
I'm
Tuesday?
usually Tuesday nights. I'm doing
Yeah,
Tuesday at 8:30, so you can join
great.
us there and we talk about whatever, everything.
You talk
Yeah.
about great stuff.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I really appreciate that. And go follow her and watch on Tuesdays, guys.
Thank
What else you
you.
gotta do? Come
All
on.
right. We'll talk
Thank you
soon.
so
Happy
much.
birthday.
Oh, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm missing some of these comments. I'm so appreciative of these live streams. Oh, you're welcome. Isn't it so nice that so many people are doing live streams and we can even be on each other's? Actually, on Monday, I'm going to be on Enduring Promises Instagram live, so if you guys want to tune into that. Right now, we are going to have Joe from Chateau Le Parc on, so get your questions ready, and we will discuss whatever he's got to tell us. Let's see here. Our COVID update, because I didn't do it in the beginning. I decided to wait till we had Joe on so we can have a COVID update. Hi.
Hi, Rose.
Well,
Rose.
I see this. You have no barber during COVID.
Yeah,
Looks
trying
good.
not to shave until this is all over, and it's
Looks good. Look at my nails, buddy. I haven't had nails like this in like 3 years. That's
it's
okay. We all cope the way we gotta cope right now. We do what we can. So I haven't given a COVID update yet today. Usually do that at the beginning of the show, but I thought I'd wait for you.
not,
Me
not, not,
personally,
I don't have any inside information on COVID, so I don't know. Continue.
no. You didn't cause it, right?
Like, oh, you're frozen.
Oh, you
No,
there?
I don't think so. At least, yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I was freezing a little bit before, so I don't know. Hopefully, it's good for us. Yeah, so me personally, I've had my clients moving all of August and they're starting, sorry, July, and now August is starting. So, why don't you educate us a bit on if I want to move my wedding, and we're going to talk about Chateau Park because that's your hall, but if you have anything else to add, um, go ahead. So I want to not cancel. I want to postpone my wedding. What do I do? Do I call you? Do I email you? What are my first steps?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I mean, before I actually answer that question, I want to start by saying to all the brides and grooms out there, and especially our brides and grooms, I mean, we have so many amazing couples that have been working with us and, understanding our situation and, being so sympathetic to our case too, realizing that, we're also victims in this whole COVID-19 situation. And I just want to, thank all of them, and not only our brides, but all the brides and grooms who have been working with their vendors. I mean, understanding that this is tough for everybody. There's no rule book that we're following. There's no
Nobody's
policy.
happy about this.
We're going, and to some of the couples that might not have been so understanding, just to kind of also reach out to them to say, like, listen, we're not taking it personal. We've gotten so many bad, threatening emails and phone calls, and it's like, me, myself, my sister, and Marianne, we're like, listen, we get it. We understand that these brides and grooms are going through such that I planned my own wedding and I didn't have to deal with this kind of stress, and I knew how stressful it was. And just to kind of say to them also too, like, listen, we're not taking it personal, and we're going to do your wedding when the time comes, and not hold any grudges, and we'll still do everything we can to make sure that you're going to have the wedding of your dreams. And you don't have to feel awkward or anything like that because of whatever we've gone through. But because
You know what? They on their end, like the reason we understand why they're going through that, first of all, is because we've been married, we've had weddings, and we would never want this to happen to us. And the other thing is we understand that the brides and grooms, a lot of them, I mean, you can't blame them, but they're only thinking about themselves, really. They're not
well,
thinking
I mean, yeah,
that you're dealing with other brides, right? You're dealing with other clients too.
hmm
So,
yeah,
it's hard to,
it's hard because they have their own wedding, their family members who are kind of giving them, you should do this, you should do that, and they don't know who to believe, who to listen to. They're watching the news every day, and they're not getting any clear answers of when this is all going to end. And it's stressful. We get it, and it's tough on our end too, because like, I got two small kids, and my wife, she's in the medical field, and she's been working pretty much day and night. She hasn't stopped working. So I'm trying to raise my two boys, put them to, in the morning I'm making them breakfast, and put in Zoom classes and going through those Google Docs, and trying. My older son takes violin. So it's like the whole day goes by just trying to keep these guys, entertained. And then, the business is still going. I mean, people are still trying to get a hold of us, calling us, and I like how your segue was people who don't call, not returning the phone calls, but
Right, come on. Okay. I'm
okay.
not saying you're not receiving phone calls.
So to go
I've,
back to your question, it's a very good question. I mean, it's like these events they're not meant to be postponed. I mean, there's no such thing. They're not. The whole ecosystem of a wedding is not designed to just pick up and move to a new date. Like, it's just so many moving parts that
The industry, you mean?
you know, it's almost impossible to just do it, especially in a fast matter, right? Like when we first get a phone call or we start touching, you know, reaching out to one of our brides and grooms. I mean, the first conversation is obviously, you know, your wedding is going to be coming up soon, and I think we should postpone, like, think of postponement, right? And we go through the calendar, we go through some of the potential dates that we have, because I mean, we are a proper venue, and we were pretty much almost fully booked for next year to begin with, even before this all started. So like, we're kind of like putting a round peg into a square hole here. Like, it's very difficult to find dates that work for people. So
And you have two halls, right?
2 rooms.
Like, you can only do 2 parties at a time.
Only do 2 weddings at once. I mean, most of the time we just do one at the same time. But we are doing weddings Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, we do have on-site ceremony space and yada yada. Anyway, so
I'm just saying that because it's hard to fill people in when you don't have 6 halls. You have 2, right?
We're more of a boutique style. I mean, we're not like, you know, 5, 6 rooms at once, which most venues are kind of either on the larger side or the smaller side. So then we give them a series of dates, and we say, okay, we have, you know, this date, that date, that date, you know, and then finally when we can come to an agreement of a date that could potentially work for them and also, you know, works for us too, then they got to go and obviously then go and see if this date really works. They talk to their family. Family's one thing, bridal party, and then, you know, some of them have to go to churches. So all this time that they're talking to all their family members, they got to call the church. Then they got to start with vendor A, B, C, D. This takes time. I mean, every vendor might be a day or so before they get back to them. Then they finally get to the end of their vendors, and some of those vendors are not available, you know, because there's a lot of vendors too that are just, you know, they're booked. Like, photographers, videographers. I mean, I've been reaching out to almost everybody in the industry, just kind of, you know, trying to understand their side of the business. Like, what are you going through? You know, I just like, and, you know, some decorators even brought it to, like, listen, I have only a limited amount of staff. Like, I have only 3 trucks. I can only do 3 weddings at once. And if everybody goes on the same day, I can't do 10 weddings on the same day. So like, I'm screwed that, and I only have a limited amount of product, and I don't have, you know, enough linens to facilitate all these weddings on certain days. And, you know, and it starts putting things into different perspectives. And it's like, wow, I never actually thought about that. You know, I just thought that every vendor would just like, yeah, no problem, we'll just move over. And I mean, so then once they go through, obviously then, you know, some weddings, they have about 10 to 15 different vendors that they've booked. And they go through the list, and, you know, 10 of them are available and 5 of them are not. Then they have to weigh out the option as, okay, do I really want to, you know, fight these 5 vendors? Some of them are not going to give me my deposit back. Some of them will. Then they have to weigh out the options of, do I go back and see if there's another date? So all this time, while all this is happening, we're waiting, right? And we cannot move on to the next bride and groom because we don't know what date that they're going to end up choosing. And I cannot start working on a new customer until that person selects their date and we're like, okay, you're good and done with. Now let's move on and get the dates that you didn't pick. I'll offer them up to somebody new.
So just so everybody understands, you know, they call you to move the date. Are you calling them, or they're calling you, or both?
Well, I mean, we're calling people in sequence. I mean, like, unfortunately, there has to be some kind of order here. Like, I mean, we can't just get bombarded with we have almost like 150 brides and grooms from now until the end of the year.
So you're doing it in order. Like, I just wanted to explain that a little bit. So if I call you and my wedding's in December and I want to move, you're telling them to hold off, right?
We're telling them, like, we'll get to you eventually. Like, you know, obviously, you know, we know you're there. We see you in our books. You know, we know the situation. And I mean, one thing that I want people to understand is that, like, we have no intention to do crappy weddings. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we want to do the wedding the way it was intended to do from the beginning.
Yeah, we don't want weddings with masks.
Yeah, we're not.
We don't want weddings.
Like, even if the government says, listen, you can do a wedding of 250 people, but people have to wear masks, they can't dance, they can't do, you know, like, we can still technically tell someone, listen, you could, look, they're saying you're allowed to do it. we have no intention to do that. Like, we want to do the weddings. Like, that's how our business, you know, turns over. Like, people come, they have a good time, they tell their friends, and
I
that's
can't
how.
imagine.
And I think doing crappy weddings is going to be detrimental for the long term. You know,
Like, how
people
can I even do a wedding? And like, imagine trying to stand 6 feet apart from the bride.
no,
Like, I can't even dress her. I can't.
it's not something that's realistic for a
No,
wedding.
I wouldn't want to do it.
Like, social
No.
distancing and weddings, it just don't go together. Like, it's just a fact, right? Like, other things you can do. Like, I went to Costco today, and I can social distance. Like, it's you know, there's thousands of people there. I didn't come in contact even one of them. At a wedding, just as soon as you walk through the door, you're already in contact with 2-3 people, and that's the
Well, yeah,
whole.
I mean, like, even for you, I come to the hall, you know, the bride and groom arrives at the hall. The first thing you do is you go to the bride and groom. You guys greet them. I've been to your hall. You greet them. How's your date?
Yeah,
You need something?
experience, and it's something that, like, why would you want to have a wedding when you can't dance and you can't, you know, hug and kiss and
No.
have shots at the bar? And we get it. We understand that is the idea of a wedding, you know. So to go back to the process, so it's like, it's so time consuming. Like, we're trying to, like, we don't want to push people and say, listen, you got to have you know, your date picked within 3 days. And we get it. It's not even possible for them to do that, because, you know, they'll go through the whole process, and they'll come back and say, guys, those dates don't work for me. What else do you have? And now it's like, oh my God, we got to start all over again. Like, we have like 10 other couples who've been like screaming, yelling, sending emails, calling, like, and like, we want to get back to them, but I don't want to get back to them just to say, like, listen, hold off. Like, I can't help you, you know. So they take it as if, like, we're ignoring them, or we're not, like, we're not. We're just like, it's such a, like I said, these events are just not meant to be just picked up and moved so easily, because there's just so many moving parts, right? And every wedding, every couple is in different situations, right? Some couples, they have a ton of people coming from out of town, so certain dates don't work for them. Some of them are, you know, they you know, they work. Like, we have a hockey player who's like, I gotta go during the off season. And we have some people who are like, the groom doesn't even live in Canada. He lives in England. And the bride is like, I don't even know when he's gonna be able to come back. And so we have to try and, like, you know, we put parameters in place so that it makes it the process easy, you know, to say, okay, these are the guidelines that we want to follow, because, you know, and ultimately we have to, you know, we have to survive. The business has to survive, and people don't understand that. Like, it's economics. Like, I mean, if we have to just close an entire year, I mean, just our hydro bill could put us, you know, out of business. Like, it's a scary situation. I mean, luckily for us, I mean, we have a very good relationship with our landlord. They've reassured us that they're with us, you know, that they're giving us, you know, whatever support we need. But again, they're business people too. There's no freebies, there's no handouts. I mean, they're going to do whatever they can to protect their investment. But ultimately, you know, we're not family. I mean, they're going to try and help us whatever they can do.
So just to, I'll go back, because there's a bunch of questions, and I don't want them to think we're ignoring them. It's hard to get to them when we're talking. So if we miss anything, we'll come back. But I'm just going to answer this question, but you can answer if you want to. People are asking about the fall weddings, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Yes, we've been holding off on moving fall weddings. It's not just you, it's other venues as well. And they're saying, you know, we're not going to have any space for next year. But up until now, what maybe they don't know, is everyone who's been moving up until now, you've been giving them dates until like March-ish, right? April?
Well, March, April, May, like that's.
But in the beginning, it was just March. Now you're slowly, as you're taking months away from this year, you're adding months to next year, right?
Yeah,
so all the summer dates haven't been taken up, unless they were taken up from last year already, which you guys have booked from last year.
At our venue specifically. I mean, every venue is kind of differently. Some people have, you know, they don't book so far in advance, or they have a lot more space available, so they might have some Saturdays available. We don't. Like, we've been booking for 2 years plus since we've opened. But, you know, a lot of people, they're starting to realize that a Friday night wedding is just as great, and we're getting people coming back and saying, you know what, I'm glad I went to a Friday because it was so much easier to book, to rearrange all my vendors.
Yeah.
Because they're available, like they're like we've had a few customers that they were pushing. It has to be a Saturday, we know for a fact they've called around other places to find Saturdays. They actually found another Saturday, another venue. And then once they called all their vendors are like, I can't do that date. So then it's like, well, oh man, so I have to leave the venue that I really love, that I wanted to go to, for a Saturday, and then not only that, then I have to like find new vendors because my photographer is booked, this person's booked. So then they come back, they go to the Friday, and then once you're on a Friday, like you're actually okay, you have to like it's done, it's a Friday. People start thinking about it. It's like, you know what? This is actually going to be okay. I contacted all my family members and they're like, yeah, we're good with it. We'll be there. No problem. Like my friend.
Yeah, they just, you know what it is? Like people assume like, oh, it's a weekday, no one's gonna come. You can't assume that.
And they're like, oh, but you're going to come? They're like, yeah, I'll come on a Friday, Thursday, Tuesday. It's your wedding. Like, I don't care. I'll take a day off. And then they start saying like, wow, this is going to be great. And then they start, wow, we can still party. We can still dance. And they're like complete peace of mind after that, which hopefully it starts a whole new trend of people just kind of realizing that it doesn't have to be always on Saturday. People have great weddings on Thursday nights. Like we do Jewish weddings on Thursday nights and they party like a Saturday night. Like they don't care. Like, listen, tomorrow, if I got to go to work and a little bit late or, I'm a little bit tired, hey, that's life. Like the older people, they go home older or early on Saturday nights anyway. So it's starting to open up people's eyes. Like what I've been trying to tell people, like, listen, if you have an open mind, we'll figure something out for you. And one thing is like, okay, I always say there's 3 components to every contract. There's the price, there's the day of the week, and the month. Now, with this COVID-19, people have to understand that you cannot get all 3 again. Like, and once you get that in your head, it's like, okay, I need to have the same price. I need to have the same day of the week. Well, then most likely you're not going to have the same month. Now, you need to have the same month. You need to have the same day of the week. Well, most likely it's probably going to cost you more. You know what I mean? So it's once they understand, like they start to come grips to that, every venue, like I've been talking to all venue owners and they're like, we find there's always solutions. There's always but as long as people understand that, we didn't do this, like it's not our fault. And we are victims in here too. Like I've pretty much conceded that I'm gonna have to work for 2 years for nothing, just to keep going. And you know what? I've come to accept that. At the beginning, it was like, there's no way. You know what? I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna close up shop and find a job. And but then once that passes, you know what I mean. Same way that most of the brides and grooms were kind of like super nervous at the beginning. That passes, and same with us. And we're like, listen. Yeah. We got to do what we have to do. As long as I have food on the table and it's we're okay, but we'll do what we have to do to keep things going, because once you start talking to all the other vendors, you realize that like we're the central hub that keeps the whole place everything together. Like
we rely on what you're doing, to be honest.
And it's a lot of pressure because, people other vendors are calling us saying, hey, how come my client is trying to get a hold of you and you're not moving them and this and that. I'm like, we're not moving them yet. Like, we will get to them, but there has to be some kind of order here. There has to be a little bit like today, I went to Costco. There's a lineup. It doesn't go by who's hungriest and gets in line. You have to go, and it's at the end of the day, it's what it is. I mean, it's very difficult. Like, and like I feel.
Oh no, is he freezing?
Just my sister and Marianne. No, I think my sister and Marianne, they've been doing most of the moving of the brides and grooms, dealing with them, and it's stressful. It's super stressful because like it's day in and day out. Like the grind never ends. And right now we're in the meat of the season. Like we're moving August. Like August, we have almost 30 weddings in August. Like 30 weddings. Just imagine that whole process that you do. 30 couples, and it's not easy, and I commend them, and I commend every other vendor, every other who's been through this process. And I mean, most people out there, I'm sure they can understand. Like it's not easy. Some days, you know, we'll have our conference call and it's like, I can't do it anymore. Like I quit. Like, you know, like, and we're like, okay, hold on, don't worry. It's gonna get better. You know, I swear. And, you know, back of my mind, I'm like, cross my fingers. I'm like, don't worry, this is almost over. And then we look at the calendar and we're like, oh my God, we have like September and October, another 30 weddings each month. Like, what are we gonna do? Okay, so it's like, you know, you're on the, remember when you're in Orange Theory, you're on the treadmill, and like, hey, round 3, like, we gotta do it. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Stop and you know,
But
these
you know,
people.
I find like having support, and I'm gonna say this over and over again. Everybody's human, and the brides and even the other wedding planners who are not really sure what's going on or don't have the connection with halls that maybe I have or whatever. Just conversation with two humans helps you to understand what that person's going through, what that person's going through. Hey, did you know that a florist needs like at least 30 days to book to order the flowers? Otherwise, you know, they can't order your flowers. Well, then I need to book my, like, everybody needs to understand everybody's, like, the chain and how it works as well,
Yeah.
right? And brides don't really understand that. And
Everybody
we don't
wants,
expect them to.
nobody wants to lose money, you know, and everyone's trying to salvage their business. But it's inevitable. Everybody's going to get a loss. The clients, the vendors. I mean, like, one thing that bothers me is when people are like, "Oh, but you're benefiting, you're profiting from someone who's going from a Saturday to a Friday night." I mean, are you serious? Like, do you realize that our business is going to be shut down for 6 to 8 months? I still have all my overhead costs coming through: hydro, gas, rent, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and I'm profiting from this? Like,
But it's
really?
not like the meat, like, I don't even understand that. It's not like the
Oh,
meat is cheaper on a Friday, right? Like
no,
the
and
meat
that's
that
true.
you're,
And fine. There's
right?
supply and demand. Like, it's like, you know, I get
Yeah.
it. So they, you know, they see the prices. They know that Fridays generally, you know,
Yeah, but that's because you're
demand
trying to
days,
get
but
people to call
not
on
just
Friday.
less on a Friday to do a wedding. But, you know,
No.
for like, you know, going to Florida and March break, or you go the week after. It's just cheaper. It doesn't cost, it's not less gas, but people just assume that, well, I'm going to the winter, so now it's cheaper, right? I'm like, well, not exactly. I mean, we're doing a courtesy to moving your wedding. Like all of it, people are like, well, what does it say in your contract? I'm like, well, you don't want to read our contract because it's all in our favor. Like, we wrote the contract. So we're trying to help you. Like, we're willing to scrap our contract and help you, because, you know, if we were to go based on the contract, every bride and groom would be screwed. Like, there's no option. But it's not in our best interest to do that. Like, I mean, we're
Yeah.
not here to take someone's deposit and run and, like, you know, laugh to the bank. It's not the way it works.
And we
It's
want to have weddings. Like, we came into this business because we love what we do. We don't want to be like, okay, everybody can, so I'm taking your money. No,
no,
that's
I
not what we
mean,
want.
we're in this for the long run. I mean, especially our venue. We just started. I mean, we spent almost $25 million to build that place, and we're only 4 years in. Like, 4 years
Yeah.
in, we didn't even pay for the parking lot yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's we have a long way to go, and you know, a lot of venues. I mean, I've been in contact with a lot of venues owners, and, you know, some of them are in desperation. It's tough out there, you know, because
Yeah.
especially guys who have, you know, older buildings are looking long term. It's like, do I really have another 10 years to go? Like, it's scary. It's scary. I feel for everybody. The little guy too. I mean, the I can't even imagine how the, you know, the photographers and the videographers and all of the you know, the you know, the little one man shows. That's like, I'm here on my own. I have nobody to back. Like, we have our staff that's, you know, we comfort each other. We talk, you know, we kind of give each other reassurance, like, yeah, don't worry, it's gonna be good, and we'll pull through this. But, like, when you're a single person on your own and you have no support, and the government they're doing what they can. I mean, everyone's kind of saying, oh, you should call the government, you should do this. Like, what can they really do? How much can they really help? Like, they're not, like, if I actually were to go to the government official and tell them how much money we need to survive, they'd be like, what? Are you crazy? Like, yeah, can you cut me a check for, you know, $800,000, because that's what I'm going to need to survive. That's like, oh, sure. Well, how much do you need? And it's like,
No.
But yeah, I mean, all in all, it's like it's crazy how you start to become used to something, right? Like the first month, I mean, the first day that we talked, it was so strange. I'm like, now it's just become, like they say, this whole new normal, and it's scary to think that
Well, I hope it's not the new normal.
that's
I
actually,
hope it's not.
no,
But
definitely, and I hope it's gonna go back, and we're gonna snap our fingers, and everyone's just gonna like wake up from this bad dream. Oh, where I gotta go? You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like it's
yeah, what happened? Yeah.
I honestly believe that that's how it'll work. It'll take some time, as long as we
Yeah.
work together, and I think we'll all pull through. But anyway, another
So
question.
someone was asking, do you still have to wait 10 weeks out? And I'm gonna say that you probably made that 10-week because that's pretty much what it's been taking you out of experience, right? That's where you're at.
The 10 weeks out is not a matter of outside in after the 10 weeks you're having your wedding no matter what. It's just a block of time to work with every couple, right? And give the couples the time that they need to properly, we don't pressure them to listen. You got to give me a dancer by tomorrow. Like we get it. It's already stressful enough on their end, and we don't want to actually add any more fuels to the fire and say, listen, you have X, till the end of the day tomorrow to decide, or I'm giving your day to somebody else. Like that's not fair either. Like we're trying to like I was listening to a little bit of the conversation before with that like a psychologist or something. Like Marianne is like, she's like a wedding psychologist. Brides are calling in her panic. What do I do? What do I go? I don't know. Why would I like in there? She's like, listen, calm down. We're gonna get through this step by step, and it's like a process. And then by the time we get to the end, they're happy. They found a new date, and then it's like, okay, you're good. Next, start all over again. So this 10-week process, and a lot of venues are in that same, they're in that same process. Like we just cannot handle 150 people calling us demanding to be moved instantly, and like
Well, you
there's
don't
like
have the staff either, right?
yeah,
You don't have
we're a small business. I mean, we don't have a call center of like 50 people answering the phone. We're
the
not even working, we're not even physically in the building. Everyone's from home. Marianne, and she has 2 kids that she's trying to raise her 2 kids every day. My sister is at home with her daughter. So aside from that, it's like, we're not getting upset with people who are panicking, because it is what it is. It's just it's tough, and again, I want to thank everybody for being understanding with the wedding vendors and halls, especially because I mean we're the first ones that they talk to,
Yeah.
and then we're the one who kind of sets the tone for the rest of the process, right? Like,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, there's some people who we're in an impasse. I mean, we can't make it work. The dates that we have available are not dates that work for them, and they're saying they can't hear me anymore.
No, they're probably behind. You were freezing before. But it's 10 o'clock and I don't want this to cut us off. So we're going to cut ourselves off. But thank you again for updating us. And thank you for
Well,
there's a
thanks for having
platform for you anytime if you need to get a message out.
me.
I'm sure you've calmed a lot of people's nerves right now of not understanding what's going on. So
Okay.
yeah, just be patient is all I have to say to
Stay out
everyone
of
out there. Be patient, and you will get to you. Your wedding will be moved. There's no way your date is going to come, or we're just going to be like, oh, are you supposed to get married tomorrow? Shoot. What are we supposed to do? It's not going to be like that. We will get to you. We will make sure you have a date. We will figure it out. You will get married. And we want to have a good wedding where we can show our love. We can hug each other. We can shake hands. We don't have to wear masks. So let's just all be patient. So we can have those amazing celebrations again. What do you say?
Yeah,
Last words.
I agree.
I am going to shut this off and I'm going to come back because I have to do a contest reveal. So whoever is interested in who won the contest, I will be back in 2 minutes. Thank you very much, Joe. You're frozen. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay, everyone. I think we have like 1 minute left and it's going to cut me off. So I am going to get off and thank you very much for tuning in with Joe. If you have any questions, just send it to me. And I am going to get off and come right back on. You can join the live and you will see who won the Envy Me Beauty Bar pack facial amazing 24 karat gold stuff. So I will see you in 2 minutes. Come right back. And that's the end of Wedding Wednesday for now. Woo! You have music? It's cutting me off. Where's my music? Wait. Okay, I'll be back, guys.